nervous, on the surface I look fine. My brain feels heavy, my traumatized mind. And I'm so tired, I can't feel my eyes. Whoa, whoa. I'm petty, but I know how to lie. I feel feelings that I can't describe. I'm not breathing, but I'm still alive. Whoa, whoa.
What's up, everybody? How you doing today? I'm going to be helping you go through creating your own base meshes. And this is going to be part of an ongoing series. Today we're going to be doing just a body. And in later series we'll be doing, ears and noses and eyes and hands and feet and all that kind of stuff. But here we are. I need to double check real quick. Make sure my cursor's on. Fantastic. So here we are in Blender. Now this is Blender 4.0, and in Blender 4.0 we have a couple of new features, and I'll be going over those later, or you can go ahead and check out some other people's videos on the subject. But anyways, we're here in the new Blender. Now when you come in, you'll get a splash screen that will start up. Let's see if I can show you the splash screen. That was the wrong button. Well, we're not going to worry about it. Point being, you'll start off, you'll have a camera, you'll have a light, and you'll have your cube. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to just delete our cube because I've already made this. And for me personally, it's a little bit bright. So I'm actually going to go to a matte cap. There we go. This is a nice little thing for us. So let's go over our shapes here. Starting with the torso. The torso, if I go here, you can see it's rough shape here. Now the rough shape is actually something we're going to be fixing, but this is fine for what it currently is. You would be molding it depending on what kind of art style you're going for, but this is just generic. And then of course it has that cant, and you can of course make it to where it, goes backwards even more. It's really up to you. But I've added more mass here than I'm going to need, so it's fine for what it is. But I actually do want to kind of fix that just a little bit. And then we have, for this one, this is a woman. So we have the breasts. We have the butt here, which is a little bit too large. It's out of proportion, but that's fine. Obviously, I've used, if I turn off the mirror modifier here, you can see it's just this one subdivided cube, and I've added the mirror modifier because I want to make sure that the shape is going to be correct. Then we have the lats, the latimus dorsi, the trapezius muscles. We have the shoulders, the arms, the elbows, the forearms, or upper arm, forearm, lower arm, whatever, and then the palm, which we're not going to be doing anything with that. Then we have our waist, our pelvis, the pelvic area, which if you're taking a look, I've kind of shaped it to where it kind of comes up into a point here, pointed here, so it's, roughly the shape I want it to be. Kind of the same thing here. I had to flatten this outer portion here to make room for this so it wasn't too out there. It still is. We can actually fix that. We'll just bring this up just a little bit, and then we can bring it in. And that's good right there. Let's go ahead and kind of make some adjustments. I rotated it too much. But the point is, we have this shape here that we've got. The overall shape. So we have our legs, which I've made into their own object here. We have the arms, that their own object there. And then all of these portions are going to be separate objects, but we're not actually interested in that. So I'm going to include, boom. So we have the lats, we have the trapezius muscle. I'm going to include all of this as well. So we'll Control J on that. I will leave the legs, the arms, the neck, and the head as well as the butt and the breasts to be their own objects. So this is fine for what it is currently, right? Let's go ahead and save. And we aren't going to sculpt this right now. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to show you how I did this. So we're going to go in and we're going to grab our cube, right? We'll grab our cube. We have our new object. It's cube 1. And we're going to go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier. Now, if we zoom in, you can see that my cube is kind of a weird shape. Also, bring on my wireframe. So we have this weird looking shape here. You can also change the color of your wireframes, which I have not yet figured out, but who cares? Not a big deal. We're gonna add cavitation and shadow. I don't need that much shadow. And then I want this set to world. Okay, so what we have here is our overall shape, but I'm gonna add, boom, some more subdivision to it, right? And we can go all the way up. We're not gonna need to do that yet. That's when you do more fine tuning. We just wanna block out our shape. So I'm gonna leave it here to 2, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit Shift D and bring it up. Shift D again and bring it up. And then I'm going to question my life. There we go. So you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. So when I do Shift D, you'll see what I'm doing. All right, so what we're gonna do actually is delete these because I only wanna work with this currently. And we can go ahead and close that portion since I don't need it. So I have this portion here and we can move it around with G. Now you can hit G just by itself, or you can hit Z, it will go up and down only. Or you can hit G and X, it will go left and right. And if you hit Y, well, it'll go on the Y axis. So I'm gonna be bringing this up, go into edit mode, and I want to grab the, oops, go into my X-ray mode, grab the top vertices and stretch it up, all right? Then I'm gonna put that in there. We'll scrunch that down, scrunch this down. I might bring this up just a little bit. Because I'm making a male this time, so we need to make his body a little different. And we'll probably go about there. And I did make this a little bit too skinny there. And of course we'll expand out here. So we're just gonna kind of roughen the shape of what we think would be a nice shape to work with, okay? Now I'm gonna have to mess with the torso again in a moment, but for now, let's see, we're in object mode. We'll bring in another cube. And I believe it's Control 2 or Alt 2. All right, doesn't matter. We're gonna do our subdivision. I don't think my add-on is enabled. And then we'll bring this up to a 2 as well. Now this can stay where it's at. We'll do Shift D, hit Z, so it goes up on the Z axis. And we'll kind of make it a little bit smaller. Make sure that we have our X-ray mode on and we can expand this portion up. And we'll expand this portion down just a little bit. About like that. Maybe. I think we're gonna actually bring you up a little bit. Okay. And let's kind of on the X-axis, we'll smush it together. So we're just kind of basically making our shape here. Okay. Now this needs to be brought up. It is way too low for what we're doing here. And for a man, we're not gonna want to have our body, or not our body, but our hips so terribly wide. So we're going to be bringing all this together. Whoops, my bad. Okay, scale on the X. We can bring those in. And I'll bring that back out. That way it's kind of similar. All right. Now what you can do, like I cut this in half, right? So I can in fact cut it in half. So if I go here and I delete the vertices, then we add a mirror modifier, it'll add our mirror modifier there. And we can do that for all of these. So if I add that, and obviously it's going to be messing with things. So I would probably bring those there. Probably bring you in just a little bit. Have it kind of similar. And then we can get rid of these by hitting delete, get rid of vertices, click on this, type in mirror. And if you want to find where it is, you can go to generate and it'll have mirror there. So as an example, we have generate and it's in our generate folder of modifiers. So you can see it's right here, the mirror. There's also deform, there's the physics, there's the edit here, which we can get into that later. But then you have your geometry nodes and you can make all your own tools and all your own geometry nodes, but we're not going to get into that today. I'm still in edit mode. Let's get out of there. This shape doesn't matter. It's all going to be hidden. And then we have this as well. I can add that, kind of make it a bit bulky, but that's fine. Go here, hit delete, get rid of vertices. We'll add our mirror modifier. Doing pretty good there, right? Now, if we go to the side here, you can see my shapes are a little messed up. So what I want to do is I want to bring this shape in. Okay. Screwed that up. Scale on the Y. I want him to have a bit of a butt, yeah? Come here. This obviously needs to be scaled in. It's too big. We're going to start with this one here, of course, and we'll scale this one on the Y. And then this can be scaled in as well on the Y, as will this one. So we're just kind of cinch it up. And then I want to go ahead and bring that back like that. Okay. We'll deal with it in a moment. This we're going to be bringing forward, and we're going to slightly kind of tilt it forward a little bit. And I did in fact go too far forward. And then we'll grab his butt situation here, his pelvis, and we're going to bring it back just a little bit, right? And then we can grab this, bring it up a little bit here, and we can kind of mold the pelvic area, right? Then of course I want to be bringing this in. We're just gonna fool around with our shapes. Okay, now you might have noticed something that is easy to notice, and that's that he's really long. He's a really long torsoed person, and we don't really want to do that. So what is our biggest problem here? It would be our torso. So we're gonna bring that down. Make it really small. Well, it's a little bit too small. We can go about here for our width. And then this is really thick as well. The easiest way to fix this is to scale right there. And we'll kind of bring it back a little bit and we'll add a little bit more curve there. Same thing here, we'll add some curve. But I'll go into here and I'll bring this up, right? Oh, look at that. I've ruined it. Wrong. We're gonna be making some changes here. All of this does not need to be what it currently is. And then of course I've got these that I want to mess with. We're going to be bringing those in like that. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. And we go to the front and we get out of our X-ray mode. And just for you guys, I will turn off the wireframe. So you can kind of see the overall shape that we have going on here. Now his pelvic down here is a little bit too long. So we just hit G and bring that up. And he's gonna be looking a little bit better. So we pretty much have our torso good to go. It's not perfect, but we are gonna be sculpting into it. But I do need to bring his butt in. This is way too much. So we're gonna add Control R to add in a cut. And then I'm gonna scale this on the Y. Whoops, I do need to bring that back in on my X-ray. Scale it on the Y. I'll bring this forward on the Y just a little bit. And then we can kind of bring this up just a little as well. The butt here, need to kind of smooth it into the back. Men aren't going to be as big pelvis as women. They don't need to carry children, so it is what it is. But we are going to be bringing him up to par with at least some proper anatomy. Now we're not trying to go realistic. Remember, we're making a stylized character here. We want to make sure, if I go like this, about like that. All right. So where's, oh, clipping. All right. So we need to have our clipping turned on. So I'll hit L. And then I will bring this in on the X axis, let it go. And then, all right, perfect. So that's good enough. Same thing here. Evidently I didn't have my clipping on. So let's go to L, bring it out, turn on clipping, bring it in. All right, so there, we're good there. And we'll do the same here. So L to, whoops, oh, you hit K. So we'll hit L so we can select our whole selection here. We'll bring it out just a little bit, turn on clipping, hide it, and then unhide it, and then G and X to bring it back in. And now it's good to go. Fantastic. So we're good to go there. That's fantastic. Let's turn off our X-ray and you can see the basic shape that we've got coming out. Now, obviously he's still a little misproportioned, but this is because he's stylized. You will see overall, our torso is about the same size as our pelvis and our tummy. And this is kind of what we want to go with. Now I'm gonna grab this right here, Shift D, and on the Z axis, I'm gonna bring it up, bring it back, and I'm gonna shrink it. And I kind of want to proportion it to where, I'll zoom in and I'll show you. I'm assuming that his shoulder is going to be right here. And so this portion back here is going to be where his trapezius muscle is going to be. And it'll attach to the shoulder here. So that's how I'm placing the neck. Now the neck obviously needs to be a little bit more like that. I'll bring it forward a little bit. About like that. That's fine. And then we can go in here and we can rotate this, bring it forward a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, and we'll bring this in just a little. Looking good. Make sure I have that turned on because we're gonna want to bring out his neck overall shape just a tad, just a little bit. There's going to be some other muscles that we need to be aware of, and oftentimes they are actually present in stylized works. So it's definitely something that we want to keep in mind. And I just want to have a base for the neck, right? Now, his neck's kind of small overall as far as this. So I'm gonna actually just, you know, my own preference, I'm gonna bring that out just a little bit. And it looks fine from this point. It looks fine here. It doesn't need to be perfect because all this is gonna be sculpted away and made to look different later on. So we have our overall situation here. Now on the female, I did have the neck as a separate entity, right? I'm actually going to connect the neck and the head together, and it'll still remain separate from the overall body. Let's go ahead and bring our man back up. So I'm going to connect all of the torso pieces together with Control J, and then the neck will be its own separate piece. We'll hit our mesh here, bring in our cube. Then I can go ahead and subdivide this. You don't have to do it the way that I'm doing it. It's just, you know, personal preference. But I'm going to select this, make sure I have my X-ray on. I'm gonna select these vertices and delete them by hitting, you know, the delete key, and then I can just delete whatever I want. But we'll go add a mirror modifier and make sure that I've selected that. We're gonna add clipping. Boom, perfect. And then we're gonna add our subdivision surface modifier. We'll bring that up, and pretty sure. Nope, mirror modifier first, maybe. The matter or the order in which you have these set up actually matters. So that'll be good enough. Okay, now I need to go back here, and we're gonna bring it all the way up. Now obviously it doesn't look like a head, but let's make it a little bit smaller. And for a man, I want to have a head that's going to be, we're going to turn this off just so I can see the front here, because it's a little bit properly shaped, but not exactly. I'm going to go, oh, I need my X-ray. I'm going to go ahead and make the face a little bit adjusted, just to where I think it looks kind of like a face. And I'm going to bring it down a little bit, but not too much. And I'm going to tilt it just a little bit. Go back to the front. And we can go ahead and start making these a little bit rounded. Grab that one. If we go to the top of the head here and I turn off the X-ray, what you want for your top of your head is to be somewhat egg-shaped, right? So if I grab this, like, the best bet is to grab this rear one here. And as you can see, I can make it just a little bit of a different size, and we're gonna kind of bring it back. Now, obviously, let's turn X-ray on. Grab these. I'm gonna round that out just a little bit. It's making it larger than it needs to be, but we're gonna adjust our proportions here in a moment. Okay, now I'm not enjoying how our head is looking here, so I'm going to make sure that my X-ray is on, and we're gonna be bringing this back just a little bit. Same thing here, we'll bring this back. And I actually want to be bringing this up. And now we can bring this back as well as this. And I'll add that. And we can maybe bring these forward a little bit, as well as bringing them down. Same thing here, we'll bring this down just to kind of smooth our overall shape. That's not proper. We're gonna bring those up. So you want to kind of shape, and your best bet is to have some kind of reference in the background as you work that you can kind of shape things to. I have reference on my other monitor, so it's not necessary for me. And then my shape here is kind of messed up, so we're gonna fix that, because now I no longer need it to be so ridiculous. But as you can see, my head here is not the perfect shape. It's pretty rough. We can kind of fix that by grabbing, goodness gracious. All right, so we'll grab these and then I'll bring them in on the x-axis. Just to kind of smooth out the top of his dome a little bit. Again, he's going to be a stylized character. So we're just trying to make a skull shape that will fit for our stylized character later on. And then we can get out of here, make sure we have the head selected, grab the neck, Control J, boom, we have our piece, right? And we're doing quite well. So this one here is going to be our torso. Let's name it torso. And then this is our head and neck. We'll just name this head, just for short. And you can do the same thing with this one here. Obviously, she's going to be a little bit more clumsy because I've added more shapes. And it's just to have mass. It's just to have volume there. You don't need to worry about that. This is how I created her. So you guys are going to get a first-hand look at how I did it. Now, I want you up here. Make sure my mirror is above. All right, we're good to go there. Now I'm gonna Shift A to bring up my Add Mesh menu. Go to the Mesh, grab a cube, and you guessed it, we're gonna do the same thing. But this time, I'm actually going to be, grab our mirror modifier first, which is good. Tab in edit mode and bring it away on the X. And we can kind of bring it into the shape that we want it to be. So his shoulders are going to be kind of high up where they belong, about right here, right? Now we're not exactly going to be keeping them there, but let's grab our sub D, add our level viewport here. Now kind of small. Take a look, they're not even in the right place, so we can hit G and then bring them in a spot with our Y. Let's make them a little bit more shoulder sized and kind of get them into right position in the side view. We're gonna bring his shoulder up a little bit bigger. We want him to be a strong guy. Bring the shoulder down just a little bit. And honestly, I'm not liking, you shouldn't do what I'm doing, but I'm bringing his shoulder back a little bit. I'm gonna probably put it, I'm gonna do it right there, just for my personal preference. And I like where they are currently. So this is good for me. Now, I'm gonna Shift D, because I want to duplicate this, right? And we'll bring it down to where I think the elbows should be. Now, if you don't know where your elbows should be, you just stand there, grab your elbows, and you can kind of hit your pelvic bone with your elbow, right? Now, if you're doing stylized, you can do what you want, but I'm putting his pelvic bone roughly about here. That's where I want it. We're gonna make this smaller. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to come up here, grab this again, Shift D. We're gonna bring it down. And then I'm going to scale it on the Z axis by hitting S and Z. Perfect. And then I'm gonna scale everything down by just hitting S. And then scale it again up on S and Z. Then I'm gonna hit Shift D, bring that all the way down. Your hands should roughly be sitting right with your groin. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to scratch your groin. I want to grab the ball. Why can't I? Oh, oops. Okay. So I want that. So your hands should be roughly with your groin. And I think that's roughly groin level. So we've got our overall shape here, and I'm liking it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my, one moment. Grab all this. I want -90. And then we're gonna bring this back up to roughly where I want it to be. Came up a little bit too high, I think. We'll bring it down to about there. So we have our T pose, and well, mostly we have our T pose. Things are looking okay. And we haven't done any sculpting yet. We're just making our base mesh. We're gonna save this in our computer. You can do Control S. I have a pie menu, so I have to just kind of Control S, pop, Control S, pop. You know what I mean? It's just pop. I can do whatever I want. I also have all these other options here. I can link, I can incremental save, I can do all these other things, but boom, save is what I want. I would actually like save to be up here, but I'm not gonna do it yet. I don't care. So moving forward, we're doing the same exact thing, except this time we're going to be doing legs. So Shift A, bring in a cube. We're going to bring in our mirror modifier, go into edit mode, and bring it over. Make it small. We don't need to use a subdivision yet. We just want to get the legs roughly where they should be, and roughly the shape that they need to be in. Now we can go into our side view. We're going to be bringing his legs forward just a little bit. For those who don't know, I guess I could show you. So your leg is going to probably start about here, and then it's going to kind of stretch forward, right? This is kind of how your leg is going to look. It's gonna start kind of closer to the center and go forward. Now, we'll move that. That's stuff I'm gonna be adding as top level details in a sculpt. For now, I just need to get the legs kind of in the right spot. Now these are too close together, but I'm okay with that because I will be adjusting their closeness momentarily. So I'm going to hit Shift D, and I'm going to bring this down. We're going to be bringing it up. And I think those are some pretty thick legs. Those are pretty nice. I like it. Let's stretch those down. Now, your legs are going to be as tall as you are here, okay? So as an example, if I put these here and then I Shift D, you can see that my legs are roughly the height that they need to be, right? And I can bring them down here, bring them in, and I have rough shape of my dude. If we bring in our sub D and we bring up the subdivision levels, you can see that I have my shapes perfect. Now, obviously this portion here is a little small, so we're gonna scale that up till I'm satisfied with it. And then same thing with the knees, but we'll worry about the knees in a moment because I'm gonna be adding some extra lines. I want this to be smoothed out, so it's not gonna be something that I wanna bring this line all the way down. Same thing here. We're gonna be bringing this up. Oh, whoops. I don't want the kneecap yet. So we're gonna be bringing this up till it touches the knee. And then I want to bring probably about here. And then we're gonna make you really skinny. Just kind of bring it in. And then we have our kneecap here. Make sure you're on your toggleable here. Hit L, and I'm gonna be bringing this to a nice size. Go to the side view. I wanna bring this forward with the Y axis, bring it up just a little bit, and just kind of adjust where I want it to be, right? And of course, I'm gonna be doing the same thing here. Now, one thing to keep in mind is I'm gonna add another one of these, right? Right about here. And it's about good there, I think. Maybe. We'll go ahead and we'll try and bring it in about there. And then I'll do the same thing here, because I want to get that calf shape, right? I want to get, let's turn on. I want to bring in a shape of a calf that's going to be lovely. So we have our basic calf shape. I can of course make it smaller too if I wanted. And I can shape it how I want. And these are all good things to do. Obviously, if I'm looking here at my upper leg, this is horrible. Absolutely horrible. So we're gonna grab these and bring them forward. I wanna make sure that his legs are looking pretty chunky, because he's supposed to be a beefy, stylized hero type dude. We're gonna bring the butt kind of up. You'll have your hamstrings here. We're just kind of shape the leg there. And that looks kind of good. Now his legs aren't terribly wide compared to, or his quads aren't terribly wide compared to his calves. But his calves are not appropriately sized. We can come in here and we can scale along the X. Scale along the X, and we can bring that in there. Same thing here, scale along the X, bring this in. We can kind of make it a little bit more snug fitting there. We don't want it to be too bulky and out there. Let's actually grab these portions here. And we'll do the same thing, because we're gonna keep this shape, but we'll bring this in scaled on the X. And if I get out of here, you can kind of see the shape that we're kind of building here. All of this can be made bigger later on. We're not gonna worry about it too much. This is a nice front size of the calf. So we'll work now on kind of bulking him out here on the sides. So we'll grab these, scale on the X. And while we've done that, I'm also going to be bringing this kind of up and in. Let's grab my X-ray. You're going to have a lot of gravity affecting a human body, right? So you're going to want to make sure that you're keeping the shapes in mind. Now he's going to be wearing clothes, but he might be wearing superhero clothes. So we're going to have to be also bearing in mind our inner shapes here. But I think we're good. Let's go ahead and bring his legs in. So I'll go grab all of this. Make sure you have your X-ray on so it grabs everything. And then I'm going to pay attention to this leg since it's easier to focus on because I have all this going on over here. But I'm going to hit G on the X and I'm going to bring it in. And I want to pay attention to the ratio between the rib cage and the shoulders, as well as the hips. So for a woman, not always, but for a woman, the hips are going to be either in line for stylized. They're going to be in line with the shoulders or slightly wider than the shoulders. So for a woman, for instance, you would have them kind of like this or slightly out, depending on the character you're making. For man, they're going to be a little bit closer. Like, you can go straight down, but they're going to be a little bit closer together. They're not going to be exactly underneath here. In fact, I'm going to be bringing mine about like that. That way, if I use my tool here, you can kind of see that the outside of my hip touching the center of my shoulder ball, right? The whole shoulder, it does kind of go over the hip here, but again, you got to understand we're doing the male portion. Now, I didn't get perfect anatomy on the female base mesh, but we're kind of fine enough as it is here. So we're good here. We have our legs. Our arms here, by the way, we can also fix these. So make sure we have our x-ray on. And now we can go in here and we can kind of move these around and make them a little bit larger. Let's give him some muscles. And then for here, I'm cool with him having let's scale here. And then I'll bring this out on the X. I'll bring this back actually. I want to keep his forearms kind of skinny. Let's bring this in. And then we can kind of make his arms bigger here, but not too big. Why? Well, this is going to be the under part of his arm. So I want to get an overall lumpy shape here, but the bottom of his arm is going to be slightly more. The top part, we can bring that down just a little bit. Maybe bring this up just a little bit, because we want to have a nice smooth curve here on the bottom of the forearm. And then you'll have the arms here with a little lump. Same thing here. We're going to be bringing his bicep inwards and give him a nice thick upper arm here. Oops, go to 7. Now, as you can see, the shape here, we're also going to want it to go outwards. We want to kind of get this curve here, but we don't want too much of a curve on the inner part of the forearm, because there's a bone that's going from this portion of the elbow all the way to the wrist, right? Or not a bone, a tendon. You also have bones in the arm. So this is going to be fine for what it is. If you've been following along, you've successfully made yourself a base mesh. You have your arms separate, your torso, your head and neck, and you will also have your legs and somewhat your hips. Now the hips, of course, are going to be stretching up. As an example, I'll turn, before we end this particular lesson, if I grab the inner part of the hips, I can bring them up just like that. And then we can go here to this side here, and you can kind of see how they're shaping. So if I wanted, just grab these portions here. I don't want that one. But I can now scale this on the Y. And then we can maybe even bring it down a little bit. And you can kind of see how I've got my shapes. We'll turn on or off the x-ray so you can kind of see how I've positioned him. Now, this is just the leg. This is only a leg, okay? The hip is on this portion. This is where the hips are, right in my little box. Well, these are going to be my hips, okay? And the legs are going to be going into sockets, which are going to be in here. So all this upper portion is just muscle attaching the leg to the rest of the body and the muscle groups. With that in mind, we should probably fix and adjust the pelvic area because it's not proper. Now it's not perfect, but that can be fixed in sculpt. What we're generally wanting to do, if I grab this head, we hit Shift D, I'll bring it over here. Okay, so Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and then Shift D again. Bear in mind I have necks that I'm dealing with. Like, let's see if I can do this a little bit more proper. You want to go 6 or 7 heads. Now I've probably gone further than that in my proportions. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heads. I'm 7 heads tall, and I haven't even added the feet or the hair. But let's just say that this is proper proportioned for what we want to accomplish here. He's roughly in the right shape. Now, obviously you would want to go in and be like, okay, do I want like a slim hero? Because you would, here, go to Control S, save. We have the arms. And then we have the legs. And these belong in this collection. I'll deal with that one in a minute. So we have this, and I can save him, right? So I have man number 1. I can copy all of these, and then I can make adjustments. So let's say this is gonna be my hero type body, right? Well, if I go ahead and I Shift D, and I just bring him over to the X, this will be, you know, my new character that I'm gonna be working on. So I will go ahead and make a new collection. We'll call this Skinny, whoops. We'll call this Skinny. Have all that selected. Put it in there. Get rid of him. And we have all our sections here. Now I can bring this over. The Shift S. Selection of cursor. All right, well, his head was not having none of it. Why is that being funky? Oh, okay, I understand. Whatever. We can bring this over, it's fine. And now we can Shift S, selection of cursor. Never mind. It is what it is. If you want to get your stuff perfectly situated, you can go to Object, and then you can snap to grid. It is now snapped to the grid. He's perfectly in the center, and we can work with him how we want. We can even bring him down if that's what we want to do, and we can put him in the center. But we'll grab the torso here, and I'll add this, and then I'll bring it in on the X. We'll make that super skinny. Bring this on the X, make this super skinny. And then we have the torso here, and we can bring that on the X. And we've made him a lot skinnier and made him to where he could potentially be a very skinny hero. Obviously, we would want to maybe bring this back on the Y to kind of smooth him out. Same thing here. Bring this back on the Y. But yeah, essentially this is what we've got. And you can, of course, continue to mess with him. Maybe you don't like that these shoulders are too large. You can always just hit L and scale those down. And then you can, you know, make sure that's selected. Grab the whole thing. Watching this side here, I'm going to be bringing it in on the X. And I'm probably going to be bringing it up a little bit on the Z axis. Yeah, so you can just make little changes to your base mesh, and you're like, oh, well, his legs are too fucked up. Well, that's fine. You can always make these skinnier. I don't recommend messing with the length because we've already measured that we're 7 heads tall. But you can, of course, come in here and maybe we'll go to this portion, grab that. Oh, I didn't have that on. So we can grab all this and then we can cinch it up. Boom. Make that, you know, nice and skinny. Cinch this up. And do what we want. It's up to you. This is going to be your base mesh. This is going to be something that you're going to be making sure that it works for you. You go in here. I didn't have my x-ray on. Go in here, kind of bring it in. And I'm actually going to be bringing this up and out. And then I got to fix the torso here. And we'll call that kind of good enough. And his butt is disgusting. We're going to be having to fix that. Okay, so roughly we're just working on shapes. You're going to have your reference. I have mine on another screen. But you'll have your reference. And if you don't know how to bring reference in, so I want to grab his picture and drag it in. Now that I've dragged him in, I want to make sure that I bring him in on the x-axis, scale him up to where I like him. Let's say this is, you know, roughly where I want him to be. And then I can go ahead and bring him back on the Y. And now I have this. And I can work. I have my little picture in the background. You can always bring in another picture and add it over there. But, you know, this is how you do your work. And you just kind of sculpt them in the background. Now, this is a bad image to use as an example, but if you need to bring your reference in, you can do it that way. Anyways, this has been how to create a base mesh and how to make it work for you. It's just a real quick video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.